Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby open the public sitting of the Examination Committee for Computer Science and Engineering, and let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Mark van der Brand. I'm Professor Software Engineering and Technology and Graduate Program Director of the Master Program Computer Science and Engineering and Embedded Systems. It's a pleasure to welcome you and the candidates for this graduation event. We are, as a department, proud of the fact that today a lot of students will get a degree of Master of Science. We offer these students a rich variety of high-level courses given by excellent teachers in a challenging environment and a challenging graduation project. These ingredients have prepared all of these graduates well for their future career. Candidate, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed your stay at our university and our challenging educational program. The Examination Committee for Computer Science and Engineering has assessed the work of the following candidates: Berk Aksakal, Tijn Bertens, Vincent Boltan, Daan Hendricks, Mariska Jacobs, Menno Teunis, Kees Voorintholt, Bart Wesselink, Mihai Zelina, Sien McCarran, Esref R, Jeroen Struik en Floor Zeven. Ladies and gentlemen, candidates Master of Science, you all have passed your examination and will therefore soon have conferred your degrees of Master of Computer Science and Engineering. This degree entitles you to use the titles Masters of Science and Ingenieur. And I would like to call forward Ning Yan to address the first candidate, Berk.
Here.
Over there.
Okay, dear Berk, congratulations. Okay. Okay, dear Berk, congratulations. I'm glad to stand here to congratulate you as your daily supervisor. So Professor Alexander Saryburnik unfortunately cannot join today, but would also like to congratulate you on your great achievement. So it was a pleasure working with you. You have joined the project with ASML and TNO-AC. This project is derived from an observation that ASML developers often manually compare software logs to identify the root cause of software bugs, which is a very time-consuming and non-trivial process. So the goal of this project is to develop a technique that can automate this process and provide actionable insight for software developers. So as you told us at our first meeting, this project looks very interesting because it addresses a real-life problem. And this project is also very challenging by its nature. So it is a joint project with several stakeholders. You were expected to develop techniques based on existing technique developed by TNO-AC researchers, and you were able to really quickly understand the existing concept and knowledge, and then build your technique on top of it. So the technique you develop has been shown to ASML developers there, and they are eager to know when they can actually use it at work. So as a person who also work with industry, I know the most challenging part in this project is project management. Verke, you have done a great job here by being very communicative. You quickly adapted yourself to join the daily stand-up meeting at ASML, and you have learned how to structure your weekly meeting to bridge your company and university supervisor. So very well done. And you also have very great presentation skills. So although you tell me many times that you are stressed about it, but you have always done a great job there. So I also still remember how much time and effort you put in refining the slides and really push it forward to the last minute. So great job there, very great medium and the final presentations there. And yeah, Verke, you are a responsible and hardworking person. So it was a pleasure to work with you, and I wish you all the best for your next step. Yeah.
Okay, next I would like to invite Tijn Bertens, who will be addressed by Dr. Sakon.
Yeah, there's a mark. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah, dear Tijn, so during the first half of this year, you have worked at a high pace, I would say, on your master project under the supervision of André Jalba. That is actually your first supervisor, but he could not be here due to teaching. And Brandon Kazenbrot, which is PhD students, and myself, and an assistant professor, Alessandro Sakon, from Department of Mechanical Engineering. So, like I just said, your project has been a collaboration between the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science and that of Mechanical Engineering of the TUE, in particular with the Dynamics and Control section that I represent. And Andrei would like to, at this point, I'm reading a speech that he wrote, but now thank you also Brandon and myself for the input and insight. So this is a, and of course I thank Andrei for as well for the very fruitful collaboration. So Andrei recalls that he had some quite discussion at the beginning of your project to understand which kind of a project could be suitable for you. And you, at the end, you decided to pick a project on estimating object detection and orientation from RGB images. So, in the presence of ambiguity. So, where ambiguity stems from the fact that an object can be symmetric or have self-occlusion. So, think of a cylinder or a mug. So, orientation estimation is really an important sub-problem for the more general object pose estimation to allow, for example, machines or robots to really understand a world that is around them to be able to manipulate. So traditional techniques mostly rely on predicting a single orientation for image, while many objects, like I said, exhibit this problem with symmetry, and rotational symmetries in particular. So they can appear essentially identical to the camera. Think of a mug. When the ears of the mug is covered, and then you always see the same object. Okay, so when viewed from a side, unless this, like I said, this ear of the mug is visible, and it will appear identical. So it is very important to understand how to represent this type of uncertainty on a machine in order to, like I said, to be able to then in the future be able to manipulate this object. So your contribution has been threefold. You've been looking at creating a data set annotated with symmetry. So I think it's going to be a very good contribution to the literature on the problem. You compared and evaluated different methods with the multiple hypothesis prediction models. And finally, you also proposed a model for estimating the orientation as a binary classification problems. And As this is not, was not enough, you also perform quite quantitative evaluations of and really demonstrate the high performance and also motivate your design choices. So from the beginning and the end of the project, you showed a very professional attitude, and you progressed, I would say, at a very high pace. So also for me, at times it felt like talking with an experienced PhD student or a colleague. That's always nice. And you know, we had regular meetings, was very, very pleasant interaction, clear agendas, reporting, communication. So this, it was also a surprise during the fact that your project was also during Corona times, working at home. So I can imagine that this is for everyone, but you know, we're really impressed. So sometimes, yeah, that's only a note. Is like, yeah, sometimes you still show modesty and say, well, you know, I'm doing something, but maybe it's not enough. So that's always something, a surprise for us, also for André in particular. But you know, for my side, you know, yeah, there is no doubt that you have a talent there. I mean, I don't know if you're doubting about itself, but that's definitely not the case. So you really have a proactive attitude, look at the initiative, and you really worked independently, and I think you should be really proud of the result you achieved, and we are, of course, really happy. Also, that you're willing to participate in writing a paper about the results. And yeah, also, for the sake of time, I want to say that one very important thing, that we are, yeah, like a supervisor, we are really satisfied, and also we are really happy to hand you the diploma cum laude, and I think it's really well deserved. So congratulations again, your family, dear ones, and good luck with your future career. I think I have to give you
Okay, then I would like to ask Vincent Bolta, who will be addressed by Dr. Quakenbuur.
Dear Vincent, congratulations. Marwan says, it's a pity I was unable to congratulate you in person due to an illness. Supervising you, mainly remotely, on a weekly basis for the months of our project has been a pleasure. It was always amazing how fast you were able to positively receive feedback, process and interpret it, and then come back in the following week with an extensive understanding of existing solutions and sometimes even with a self-built demo implementation. Despite some external ups and downs in the project, you were always positive and did not simply prefer the easy way. I still recall the extensive survey you made of literature based on your own initiative, not only for understanding existing solutions, but also for finding the best additional benchmark data set that could help highlight your contribution. In the project, you addressed the problem of predicting when new complaints are submitted to municipalities and when an increased number of complaints is likely to occur. You dealt with complaints from the spatio-temporal perspective while designing your complaint prediction framework. Your framework aimed at predicting local outliers on the complaint dimension by using additional other relevant dimensions in a spatial-temporal setting. The prediction of outliers is based on previous correlations between outliers in both dimensions. You designed your framework in a general way such that it was applicable in two completely different scenarios. Your results contributed to the understanding of using spatial-temporal data in a predictive, semi-supervised machine learning context. Throughout the project, I knew you as a well-organized, focused, and competitive collaborator. I wish you all the best in your future steps. Congratulations again. En wil je misschien de tekst? Oh ja, dat is goed.
Then I would like to call forward Daan Hendricks, who will be addressed by Dr. Kurtev.
Congratulations.
Dear Dan, congratulations on the defense of your thesis and on successfully completing your study at Eindhoven University of Technology. I first met Dan when he followed a course on design of domain-specific languages in which I was a co-lecturer. And here meet was a bit too strong because the teaching was during the Corona lockdowns and was completely online. Later on, he, as one of the best performing students in this course, he became a teaching assistant and was helping us in some of the later instances of this course. So I felt really privileged to have you helping us. We first met in person when you started working on your thesis, and your project was about interaction and alignment between system engineering and software engineering. A rather broad and challenging subject. The topic was proposed and executed at ESI, Embedded Systems Innovation Institute, which is part of TNO, and was partly inspired by concrete needs and questions at industry. So you based your work on the observation that nowadays the software plays increasing important role in our life, and we find it in many places in complex environments such as medical devices, domestic appliances, cars, and even in social systems, social context. So it is desirable that the software engineers, software specialists are aware about the context in which their product is used, and vice versa. The engineers creating the encompassing system need to recognize the crucial role that the software plays. So it is not possible to leave these two communities to work in isolation. Your master thesis focused problems in this area in order to improve the integration of tools used by the system and software engineers and also the models that they make. Dan started his work first as a seminar study, investigating available literature and a number of tools. Later, during the project, he revealed and analyzed intricacies in aligning two modeling languages, one for software modeling, one for system modeling. And at first glance, they had a lot of common, but also they differed in the level of abstraction and the technical details. So his work in the end helped in improving the communication among engineers, promotes reuse, consistency, and automatic conversion of the models they create. Dan executed the project in a very independent and quite confident way, and the very high level of technical competence. I will remember also our meetings. They were quite positive, interesting discussions, and very pleasant atmosphere. So, dear Dan, I'd like to congratulate you also on behalf of your other supervisor from SDTNO, Professor Josef Holman. And I wish you all the best in your future career and all your endeavors. So.
Then please Mariska Jacobs to come forward, who will also again be addressed now by Dr. Kirtev.
So, dear Mariska, I'm going to deliver this address on behalf of your supervisor, Professor Serebreni, who is abroad and cannot be present here. So, beste Mariska, congratulations on successfully defending your master thesis and becoming an engineer. I had a privilege of meeting Mariska as part of the software engineering project group. This was a group of 11 bachelor students working on developing a financial game for a large Dutch bank. This was probably the funniest group I have ever had. They have even created a special website for memes. After all, the group was also called Funnatial. What is interesting is that this was not merely a fun project, but that the bank has used this game to improve their software development process. Mariska was part of this group and gave one of the presentations. So given all this positive experience, I have been very excited when Mariska has decided to work on social software engineering topics. First as a small research project, then as a seminar study, and finally as her master thesis. During the seminar, Mariska has conducted a literature study on mentoring, targeting, women in open source communities. She has worked with high degree of independence, and her work is exemplary in several ways. This study served as a basis for a chapter we are currently preparing for the upcoming book on equity, diversity, and inclusion in software engineering. In her master thesis, Mariska has focused on politeness. Politeness, often called the oil of the society, seems to be everywhere, so we wanted to understand how politeness influences communication between software developers performing code reviews. After all, offering one's contribution to a public criticism, which is what code review is about, might be a painful experience, particularly for novice developers. Mariska has shown that politeness is predominantly expressed in interactions between low and high experience reviewers towards newcomer change owners. This can be seen as a sign of welcoming community. Moreover, it is interesting that as opposed to neutral statements, both polite and impolite questions are less likely to trigger response from a fellow developer, but more likely to trigger a code change. This would suggest that, assuming that the code change is as a goal, one should either be polite or impolite, but not neutral. This is a rather surprising result, as one would have expected neutrality to be the norm of professional behavior. This observation makes one, of course, wonder about the long-term impact of impoliteness, but this will be a topic of a follow-up study. So as you see, as befits good research, it triggers multiple follow-up questions and inspires future studies. Again, I would like to congratulate you, dear Mariska, also on behalf of your supervisors, Dr. Reid Milevich from Sandia National Labs in the US, Dr. Nicole Novielli from University of Bari, Italy, and Dr. Felipe Ebert from Fontis ICT in Eindhoven.
Then I would like to ask Manu Teunis, who will be addressed by Dr. Roelofsen.
Hi, Menno. When we first met, you didn't really have a very strong preference of topic or type of project, but there was one thing that was very clear. You didn't want to just write theorems. You wanted to actually build something. So we looked around a bit, and we came to a nice project, which was about dynamic graph coloring. So for the non-computer science people, this is basically a problem where you have a set of things that are somehow related to each other. And the goal is to sort of group these things into groups so that within a group, nothing is related to each other. These are basically the colors. You had an extra constraint on that problem, or an extra difficulty, namely we wanted to look at a dynamic version. So these relations could change, which means sometimes you have to regroup these things, which makes this quite a complicated problem. Because you want to have few groups, you want to not have people or things change groups too often, and you still want to do this computationally efficiently. All these things are somewhat in contradiction to each other, so somehow you have to balance these things, and that was going to be your job to figure out how this actually works. So there were some papers. I knew there were a few results, but they hadn't properly been evaluated yet. So I sent you off on a search for some literature, as well as on a search for some data sets to sort of properly be able to evaluate this in a reasonable setting. I thought this would keep you busy for a little while, but within 2 or 3 weeks, you basically came back with a complete overview of many papers, many of which I didn't know of the existence. You had ideas of how to create data, and you had found some real-world data sets that you could also use to sort of validate your experiments. So this basically turned out to be a trend in the whole project. So oftentimes we'd have our weekly meeting. You'd spend most of the time explaining what you had done. Then we would come up with, okay, what are you going to do for the next week? And usually you had done that plus more, plus follow-up questions I specifically remember at some point I was on vacation for 3 weeks. That was more or less nearing the end of the project, so I was like, okay, go write a draft for your thesis. And after 2 weeks, I got a message, I mostly have a draft now, what shall I do next? Where you already had some ideas. So because of your sort of very efficient work ethic, you managed to actually do a lot. You managed to make a very comprehensive comparison between existing methods. You also created enough understanding that you were able to create a much better algorithm than what already existed. So overall, this was a very nice result, for which you also graduated cum laude as well, which I think is very well deserved. So overall, I think you've been a very efficient worker. You seem to have a good eye for detail. And I'm glad that you're still around in the NB program now, where I think these skills will benefit you well. Yeah, so again, congratulations.
Then I would like to call forward Kees Vorenthold, who will be addressed by Professor De Berg.
Yes, so I'm not Dr. Monimizade, as you know, but the audience maybe does not. He was planning to be here, but unfortunately he couldn't make it at the last moment. So I'm now covering for him, but he wrote a speech that I will read to you. So Morteza is writing, "Dear Kees, it was my pleasure to work with you during your master project. I remember you came to me to work on an algorithmic project in a distributed model. Then I gave you a few problems to think about for a few weeks, and among them was the problem of developing affinity clustering in the MapReduce model." So here you see an illustration of what this problem is all about. Namely, you're given a set of points. So there you see lots of points in. Well, here it's just in 2 dimensions, but you have been working on a set where you have many, many dimensions. And the goal is to build a tree on the point, so you connect the points so that everything is connected to each other eventually, such that when you go down the tree, you nicely get things that are close together in subtrees, so in clusters. So this is a very fundamental problem in data analysis. You can think that, oh, who would want to cluster points in 2-dimensional space? But whenever people do clustering, they typically, suppose you want to cluster photos. These are photos about mountains with lots of green and so on. Then they map these photos to points in a high-dimensional space, and they solve the problem by working in this high-dimensional space with these points. So there's a lot of work on this problem. And recently in one of the major conferences, NeurIPS, like 5 years ago, some people from Google wrote a very nice paper about it. And, well, you would think that then there's not much to improve maybe, but you have been working on the problem and actually improved what they did. So then you and Morteza contacted the people at Google, and they liked your solution. So they, together with you, wrote a paper about it, which I see was just accepted at the ICDM workshop a few days ago. So congratulations, very well done. Also, because of all the nice work you did, actually 2 new projects started, collaborations between Eindhoven, Morteza, and Google. So there, the idea is to do the same thing, but now look at what's happening when the data is also changing. Morteza was very happy to work with you, which I can imagine also given the very nice results that you obtained. And he says that he was quite impressed that you always, you had a clear plan, you followed your plan and then stuck to it. He was also very impressed by the fact that you are training for a half marathon. I think, did you already? Okay. But he was impressed by the training. So apparently you ran a lot, and yeah. So you're now going to work at the Nevara company, and Morteza wishes you all the best and wants to congratulate you again, and of course also your friends and family.
Then I would like to ask Bart Wesseling to come forward, who will be addressed by Dr. Kurtev.
Dear Bart, congratulations on successfully defending your thesis and becoming a Master of Science. I first met you in an informative meeting about a possible master topic in the area of robotics. So this topic was proposed by Dr. Torta from Department of Mechanical Engineering, and she was facing some challenges related to developing software and verifying software for robotic applications. So it turned out that you already have some interest in this area and some previous experience. So it was quite natural that you accepted this topic. And with all this in place, along with your obvious enthusiasm and motivation that was visible at that time already, we were anticipating a very successful collaboration and a very nice thesis. So developing software for robots is a complex task, especially when the robots have to work along with humans and have to collaborate with them. So safety of humans is a primary concern next to the expected robot behavior. In your work, you developed a language for modeling and generating software that controls robots and allows automatic checks on the correctness of this software. As a result, the engineers can actually significantly reduce the development time and the size of the code that they develop, because some of the tasks are automated and some of this code is automatically generated. So it saves a lot of manual work. You also used and built upon existing work based on supervisory control theory, and this gives certain guarantees that the robot will behave as expected. To this end, your work actually was quite challenging. Looking this morning again to your thesis, I see the number of topics that you covered and integrated, ranging from the supervisory control theory I mentioned, also the tools related to that, the middleware of robot operating system, and of course, finally, something that was not that a big problem for you, the complex machinery for developing a language, because in the end, a new modeling language was the main outcome of your work. A particularly exciting part was the final experiments that you did, so they can be seen here on the slide, when you tried your work on a real robot, on a series of tasks with increasing complexity, navigating through a maze or following a line, as you can see here. So it is always very nice to see how your final results made the supervision quite enjoyable experience, and I have to say that it was also an easygoing task for us as supervisors. You produced a solid piece of work, and part of it was already used for writing a paper that, as you know, was submitted to one of the main robotic conferences. So we are looking forward for a positive news about it. I also recall that we discussed in more informal fashion about the Twente region, and we both have some sentiment for that, touching subjects about the past successes of FC Twente, and also hopefully for future successes there. So we will see. We are also hoping about that. So, dear Bart, I would like to congratulate you again, once more, also on behalf of Dr. Elena Torta, your second supervisor from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, And I wish you all the best and a lot of success.
Then I would like to invite Mihai Zelina, who will be addressed by Professor De Berg.
Dear Mihai, about a year ago in December, you contacted me because you wanted to do an algorithmic project in industry, and you had heard that I had supervised similar such projects in the past. And indeed, I had several such projects, and in particular, many of them were with the company Kulicke and Soffa, which you see on the slide, because I have a former PhD student of mine, Dirk Gerrits, who was working there and who often encounters many challenging algorithmic projects. So these projects are always very interesting, but also very difficult. But when you approached me, I didn't know you that well. You had taken a course with me, but that was a course with 200 students, so I did not know you personally. But I was looking at your grades, and I saw that you were actually a very strong student, so I had confidence that you would be able to tackle the difficult problem that Dirk would give you. So this problem is about optimizing a new so-called pick-and-place machine that the company is developing. So there you see a picture, a schematic picture of what the machine is supposed to do. So this machine is making printed circuit boards. Those are the green rectangles you see there. And actually, probably most of you have a printed circuit board in your pocket right now, which is manufactured using one of the machines of this company. Because they're market leader in this area, and for instance, mobile phones probably have a printed circuit boards manufactured with one of their machines. So they always want to make their machines faster. So now they're developing a machine where this board is on a conveyor belt, there are robot arms putting the components on there. But what is the new aspect of this machine is that a robot arm is able to pick up two components at the same time and then put them down at the same time. So it will be twice as fast. But you can only do that if the components are close enough together. There are many very difficult problems if you want to optimize such a machine. First of all, there are many robots, so you have to decide which robot is going to place which components. Then you have to decide for a robot in which order does it have to place the components so that the travel time is minimized. And you also want to do all of this in such a way that you can do many of these simultaneous pick actions and simultaneous place actions. And that's where your work comes in. They already had a good solution for that, but they were wondering if it was possible to do better. So that was the problem that you were tackling. And indeed, you have showed that this very difficult problem could be done in a better way. You came up with a new algorithm that is doing better than what they already had. So the company is quite happy with that, and they're going to integrate what you do into their software. So I think that you can be very proud of that you achieved that. And I think the companies making the mobile phones will be happy that they will have faster machines because of you. Even though, with all the knowledge that you have and the courses that you took, you already have an excellent background to start a career in industry, you decided that you wanted to learn a bit more. So you applied for our program to get a professional doctorate in engineering. You applied to our PEDENG program, and given how strong you are, I was not surprised to see that you were actually accepted into the program. So now you are a PEDENG student, and I'm sure that you will be able to finish that successfully and then start a very successful career. So I want to wish you all the best with your PEDENG studies and with your career after that, and Once more, congratulations to you and also to your family and friends. And let me not forget to give you the nice sweater.
Then I would like to ask Sean McCarran to come forward, and he will be addressed to Dr. Roelofsen.
Hi, Sean. So I'm neither Kevin nor Bettina, who actually supervised you, but they gave me this very nice speech to give to you, so feel free to imagine that I'm either Kevin or Bettina or both. First of all, congratulations on your diploma. We could say that you had quite a special project for your master thesis. So we had been approached by the medical researchers of Amsterdam UMC to help with our analysis pipeline. They studied the adverse effects of polypharmacy, that is, simultaneous use of multiple drugs. Their goal was to predict adverse effects of drug combinations, for which not much data is available, by using adverse effect for single drugs. They had built an analysis pipeline for this, and they asked if they could improve that. We figured this was a nice master project, so we hunted for a student, and we found you. Who were, for one, recommended, and we were very happy that you took the project. So the goal was to analyze the existing pipeline and see if we could improve it. You somehow did that job too well by essentially, halfway the project, taking apart the entire pipeline, showing that it mostly doesn't work. That was interesting. And that also led to a somewhat awkward meeting with the people at Amsterdam UMC, where we had to explain to them that the pipeline didn't quite work. Of course, this was only halfway the project, so then what? Because building a completely new pipeline wouldn't have fit in the project. But then again, you already sort of proved that the old pipeline didn't work. Fortunately, you came up with some interesting algorithmic contributions and some visualizations to sort of add to the project and maybe be the basis for future work. So all this together, the dismantling of what was there, as well as starting up and bringing new tools for the future, resulted in a very, very nice thesis, indeed. So we greatly appreciated Sean's enthusiasm and hard-working spirit, and we were happy to work with him on the project. And if I recall correctly, you're working at ASML now. So they wish you the best of luck in your career there.
Next, I would like to invite Ashraf R, who will be addressed by Dr. Kwagebeur.
Beste Ashraf, gefeliciteerd met het behalen van je masterdiploma. Ashraf onderzocht de detectie van call to actions in brieven aan burgers. Zijn project voerde hij uit in samenwerking met de Belastingdienst. Call to actions zijn zinnen, of deel ervan, die de lezer aanzetten een bepaalde handeling uit te voeren. Een voorbeeld is een vraag voor het aanleveren van een document. Het is belangrijk dat burgers die een brief van de Belastingdienst ontvangen begrijpen dat hen iets gevraagd wordt te doen en dat duidelijk is wat ze moeten doen. Daarom heeft het grote waarde voor de Belastingdienst om een overzicht te hebben van alle call to actions in hun standaardbrieven. Want dan kunnen ze die call to actions nakijken en zo nodig verbeteren. Gezien het enorme aantal te controleren brieven is een menselijke detectie van alle call to actions praktisch ondoenbaar. Maar misschien kan een computer het voor ons doen. Dit is waar Ashraf in het plaatje komt. Hij nam de uitdaging van de Belastingdienst aan om een systeem te ontwikkelen voor automatische detectie. Meer zelfs, hij onderzocht en ontwikkelde verschillende mogelijke aanpakken en evalueerde die op doeltreffendheid. Dit is een niet triviale opdracht, want het vereist een goed begrip van het taalkundige probleem, kennis van machine learning modellen voor taalverwerking en de vaardigheid modellen om te zetten in concrete implementaties. Allemaal zaken die SRF beheerst. Maar er komt nog meer bij kijken. Je hebt voorbeelddata nodig. Namelijk teksten waarin de call to action al aangegeven zijn. Die waren er eigenlijk te weinig. En dus heeft SRF zelf zulke voorbeelddata gemaakt en dat deed hij op een wetenschappelijk zeer gedegen wijze. SRF, toen je begon liep het project meteen als een trein. Je bent zeer goed in staat modellen te vinden, te combineren en te implementeren. Je had een verantwoord en duidelijk plan en hoopte grote modellen te kunnen leren. Voor het grootste deel van het project was de rekencapaciteit ter jouw beschikking echter relatief beperkt. Je kon daar goed omheen werken, maar toch, omdat het zeer lang duurde voordat je de situatie verbeterde, werkte het ook wel wat demotiverend. Hoe dan ook, je had sowieso een grote hoeveelheid werk verzet en het werd tijd alles op papier te zetten in je thesis. Dat schrijfproces vormde bij tijd en wijle een worsteling voor je. Je ging daar professioneel mee om. Open en verschillende methoden uitproberend in overleg met en behulp van anderen. Dit leidde tot een mooie tekst, die nuttig is en nog lang zal blijven voor de Belastingdienst en andere geïnteresseerden in de detectie van call to actions. SRF, je begeleiden heb ik als zeer positief ervaren. Ik kon je gestage vooruitgang volgen en zo je successen delen. Het ondersteunen in je schrijfwerk gaf ook voldoening, want dankzij je positieve houding en doorzetting zag ik je hierin goed groeien. SRF, het was me waar genoegen te beleiden op je pad. Daarom nogmaals mijn felicitaties voor je afstuderen en ik wens je veel succes in je huidige en toekomstige bezigheden.
Ik wil ook Jeroen Struik naar voren roepen. Beste Jeroen, van harte gefeliciteerd met je behaalde masterdiploma. Het is al door een aantal sprekers genoemd, maar jouw afstuderen was ook bijna volledig online. En we hebben elkaar pas echt gezien bij je eindpresentatie en verdediging van je scriptie. Het feit dat alle meetings online waren, was niet altijd optimaal. Ik denk dat met name het tekenen van de layout van wissels, sporen met daarop treinen, makkelijker was geweest op een stuk papier samen aan tafel of op een bord. En nu zult u wel denken, sporen, wissels, treinen, waar gaat dit over? Jeroen heeft gewerkt aan het ontwikkelen van een digitale tweeling, een digital twin, om incidenten op het spoor beter te kunnen afhandelen. Een incident is bijvoorbeeld een ongeluk, een omgevallen boom op de rails, een kapotte wissel, etc. Er zijn natuurlijk behoorlijk wat incidenten. Denk bijvoorbeeld aan de doormidden gereden bus afgelopen maandag in de buurt van Bergen op Zoom, die het spoor blokkeren. En soms zijn er dusdanige incidenten, ook met wat gebeurde afgelopen maandag bij Bergen op Zoom, dat het spoor helemaal niet bruikbaar is en dat er bussen ingezet moeten worden. Maar waar Jeroen naar gekeken heeft, is wat gebeurt er als het spoor partieel niet beschikbaar is. Dus er is een incident en één van de sporen is uitgevallen en de andere spoor is nog ter beschikking. Hoe kun je dan toch met deze verminderde capaciteit ervoor zorgen dat er zoveel mogelijk treinen over de rails of over de achtergebleven sporen blijven rijden op een manier zodat toch mensen vervoerd kunnen worden? Daarvoor heeft Jeroen baanvakken met behulp van Petrinetten beschreven en gemodelleerd en simulaties uitgevoerd om te kijken van wat zijn de mogelijke optimale acties die nog plaats kunnen vinden als er een spoor uitvalt. En wat is dan de capaciteit die overblijft? Wat is een goede strategie om treinen alternerend over dat spoor te laten rijden? Rekening houdend met het aantal treinen wat staat te wachten, het type incident, etc. Dit onderzoek is een eerste stap geweest in de richting van het ontwikkelen van een digitale tweeling. We zijn er nog lang niet. Ik denk dat er nog behoorlijk wat extra werk nodig is. Maar het is wel een belangrijke stap. Ik denk ook dat deze afstudeeropdracht om verschillende redenen een grote uitdaging is geweest. Op de eerste plaats om het feit dat toen we begonnen het nog helemaal niet duidelijk was wat ProRail nu precies wilde of wat CGI, het bedrijf waar je bij bent afgestudeerd, nu wilde. Dat was één. Het andere was van, oké, hoe modelleer je nu eigenlijk een stuk spoor? Wat neem je wel mee, wat neem je niet mee? Want een stuk spoor lijkt natuurlijk heel triviaal, maar er zitten wissels in, er zitten seinen op, er zijn verschillende type baanvakken, lengtes, et cetera. En nemen we dat wel mee, neem je dat niet mee in je modellen? En daar hebben we behoorlijk wat discussies over gehad van hoe zorgen we ervoor dat je op het juiste abstractieniveau het spoor modelleert. Dus uiteindelijk is dat gelukt. Je hebt ook simulaties kunnen draaien en je hebt aangetoond dat je een vaag en harig probleem uiteindelijk goed hebt weten te modelleren en tot een goed einde hebt weten te brengen. Ik wil je nogmaals feliciteren, ook je familie en je vrienden. Ik wil ook de begeleider vanuit CGI, Harry Epker, bedanken. Daar ben je afgestudeerd en volgens mij ga je daar ook aan de slag, toch? Ja, daar ben je al begonnen. Dus ook daarmee gefeliciteerd en nogmaals gefeliciteerd met je masterdiploma. Finally, I would like to call forward Floris Seven, who will be addressed by Dr. Lutting.
Ja, dus ik kom uit een college hierheen gerend, vandaar dat ik later binnenkwam. Het was niet dat ik het vergeten was. Floris. Ik denk dat we voor het eerst contact hadden toen je mijn masterkeuzevak Process Algebra volgde. Of misschien heb je hier ook wel de bachelor gedaan, maar ik kan me dat niet zo goed herinneren. Maar toen je Process Algebra volgde, was het duidelijk dat je er was. Dat is een keiharde theoretische informatica. En dat was kennelijk bevallen, want toen je bij mij meldde voor een afstudeeropdracht, toen zei je dat je graag iets theoretisch wilde doen. En ik had op dat moment 3 afstudeeropdrachten op mijn website staan. En jij zei dat je geïnteresseerd was in 2 van die 3 projecten, namelijk de 2 puur theoretische opdrachten. Dat was een probleem. Want ik vond zelf dat derde project eigenlijk veel interessanter en wilde heel graag dat dat opgepakt werd. En ik had geen andere kandidaten voor dat project, dus ik heb een verlammend betoog gehouden om je ervan te overtuigen dat dat derde project toch eigenlijk veel leuker was. En je vertrok uit mijn kantoor met een wat bedenkelijke frons op je voorhoofd, maar beloofde dat je er toch al even over na zou gaan denken. En gelukkig had je mijn betoog je kennelijk aan het denken gezet, want je stuurde mij een mailtje met zoiets van, nou ja, ja, ik weet het toch niet zo goed, ik twijfel nog eigenlijk, maar kun je me nog wat meer uitleggen over dat derde project? Nou goed, ik heb nog een mail gestuurd toen, nog een keer uitgelegd van, nou, dit is wat ik in gedachten heb. En tot mijn grote tevredenheid schreef je toen terug. Bedankt voor de reactie met extra uitleg. Na er nog een nachtje over te geslapen te hebben, heb ik besloten om te kiezen voor de opdracht over spatial model checking. Ik denk dat het voor mij de juiste balans tussen theorie en praktijk is en ik word er ook steeds enthousiaster over. Nou, deze zinnen zijn, althans wat mijn ervaring met jou betreft, kenmerkend. Ik heb je leren kennen als een beetje een twijfelaar, vooral omdat je de goede keuzes wil maken. Maar als je dan je keuze hebt gemaakt, dan ga je er enthousiast voor. En dat enthousiasme dat komt eigenlijk voortdurend, dat groeide inderdaad en uiteindelijk was je heel enthousiast denk ik over het onderwerp. Dus even, wat is dan spatial model checking? Dat hoef ik jou natuurlijk niet uit te leggen, maar misschien voor de rest van de aanwezigen. In de Formal System Analysis onderzoeksgroep, waar ik onderdeel van uitmaak, ontwikkelen we technieken en tools om op basis van een model wiskundig onderbouwde uitspraken over systemen te doen. En dan met name over de correctheid van systeemontwerp. En een van die technieken is model checking. En het idee is dat je een model van een systeem maakt en dat de computer dan dat model helemaal doorrekent om te bepalen of dat model aan een aantal eigenschappen voldoet in de hoop dat het systeem dat dan ook doet. Bij spatial model checking gaat het niet zozeer over gedrag in de tijd, maar gaat het over eigenschappen van een ruimte. In jouw geval vooral plaatjes, dus tweedimensionale ruimtes, waarbij dus een tweedimensionale ruimte met pixels. En vandaar dus de term spatial model checking. Italiaanse collega's hadden laten zien dat je met spatial model checking bijvoorbeeld een MRI-scan van hersenen zo kan bewerken dat een hersentumor precies wordt gemarkeerd. En dat is belangrijk voor de bestraling van een hersentumor. En het voordeel van deze techniek is dat ten opzichte van de state of the art, als het gaat om het met de computer herkennen van hersentumoren of markeren van hersentumoren, is dat je de techniek in feite met een wiskundige formule beschrijft die een hele precieze betekenis heeft. En dus in tegenstelling tot de machine learning aanpakken levert dit eigenlijk een soort van explainable AI. Goed. Wat jij ging uitzoeken was of je spatial model checking ook zou kunnen doen met de MCRL2 toolset die onze groep ontwikkelt. En zoals je zelf ook al voorspelde, dat project dat je uiteindelijk deed was een uitstekende mix van praktijk en theorie. Je hebt namelijk laten zien dat de MCRL2 toolset geschikt is, of geschikt gemaakt kan worden voor spatial model checking. En je hebt ook nog formeel correct bewezen, je aanpak correct bewezen. Dus theorie en praktijk werden gecombineerd in dit project. Ik heb jouw verslag naar de Italiaanse collega's gestuurd en die hebben mij laten weten dat ze zeer geïnteresseerd zijn in de aanpak. Dus dat is mooi. Ik denk dat dat nog wel wat vervolgprojecten met de Italianen gaat opleveren. Goed. Je bent alweer enige maanden denk ik aan de slag bij Axini. Ik hoop naar volle tevredenheid. In ieder geval is dat een bedrijf dat ook dit soort methoden, niet zozeer voor spatial model checking, maar wel formele methoden toepast in de industrie. En ik twijfel er eigenlijk niet aan dat je die baan met net zoveel enthousiasme zal gaan doen, of al doet, als je je afstudeerproject hebt gedaan. En je gaat ongetwijfeld een succesvolle carrière tegemoet. Dus nogmaals gefeliciteerd, ook voor je familie en vrienden hier aanwezig. En,
And finally, almost finally, I would like to ask Wietske de Bond to address you on behalf of GWIS, our student association, or study association, sorry.
Yes. So, dear students, or actually graduates, as you're now not a student anymore, dear family members and friends and other attendees. As already told, I'm Wietske de Bond. I'm the chair of GWIS, the Study Association for Mathematics and Computer Science. And as GWIS, we offer a place for all students to partake in activities, but also help organizing in these activities. A few examples of which also some of you helped, for example, is educational activities like programming contests. I think some of you also took part in it and also successfully. Also career-related activities like lunch lectures and helping organizing them so that you become aware of companies. Also personal development activities like a meeting about how to have effective meetings, a training about how to do this. But also like the fun stuff, student life, but also, for example, a nice outside cinema where you can watch a movie together at the campus. All kinds of things that we as GWIS offer. But let's go back to why we're here. We're here because today is your official graduation, the day you receive your master's degree. But also, on this day, like 143 years ago, the first light bulb was demonstrated by Thomas Edison. And I think that's a very nice example how a good invention helped the world. Because I think that without the light enabled a lot of new things and possibilities. And I think it's also nice because we're here right now in Eindhoven, the city of light where Philips really emerged, also known because of their light bulbs. And I hope that this may also resemble you, that right now you're motivated to spread your light, to starting here in Eindhoven, also to the rest of the world. Either being it as here doing a PhD, maybe at university, or starting your job at a company. And of course, this light is all the knowledge you gained from the university, but also the lessons you learned while studying here. And I think it also wasn't an easy ride for you, Because as already mentioned, a big part of your master degree has been in times of pandemic, online lectures, no physical contact. Maybe it wasn't even that interesting anymore, but you did it, you're here. And actually you're part of a very small percentage who are able to get their master's degree at the university. And I think that's something you can be very proud of. I think your family and friends are very proud of you. They have also seen you struggle. But I'm also very proud of you, also on behalf of GEWIS. And I now want to address some words to some GEWIS members who contributed a lot. And I will switch to Dutch for that. Yes, Vincent. Ja, jij bent je carrière begonnen in EEC 16.0, die roze giraffen. Ik weet niet hoe jullie erbij zijn gekomen, roze of giraffen, maar ja, het is toch mooi om zo GEWIS te leren kennen. Daarin heb je ook bijgedragen aan de Ouderdagcommissie. Misschien dat sommige ouders ook al een keer op de universiteit zijn geweest bij zo'n ouderdag. En dit heb je niet 1 keer gedaan, dit heb je 2 keer gedaan. Zelfs ook nog als opperhoofd om de nieuwe eerstejaars te helpen in het neerzetten van deze ouderdag. Zelfs ook nog met Kees, die hier ook in de zaal zit, hebben jullie mooi samen neergezet. Superleuk. Daarnaast ben je ook heel erg actief geweest in ja, eigenlijk alle serieuze dingen die we ook als GEWIS doen. Bijvoorbeeld C4, het contact met bedrijven, helpen met lunchlezingen organiseren en dergelijke. Maar ook Train, de commissie die helpt bij persoonlijke ontwikkeling en bijvoorbeeld die effectief vergaderingtraining om dat neer te zetten. En daadwerkelijk als GEWIS hebben we een meerjarenplan, Multi-Annual Strategic Vision. En jij bent een van de personen die geholpen heeft om dit te schrijven en hieraan te werken. En ja, dat was een hele grote uitdaging, dus ook bedankt hiervoor. Maar je hebt ook ja, geholpen in ook leuke dingen, zoals bijvoorbeeld, ja, dit was ook leuk hoor, maar intro 18, de introductieweek voor alle nieuwe studenten. En ja, al deze dingen, je zit hier, je hebt je masterdiploma gehaald, maar je hebt niet altijd de snugste uitspraken. Zo waren jullie bij een uitje een keer in Maastricht en je liep over de Maas en toen dacht je, oh, is dit waarom het Maastricht heet? Nou ja, dat soort dingen horen er ook bij. Net als dat je eigenlijk nooit koffie of thee drinkt bij GEWIS. Want ja, je weet nog steeds niet hoe het koffiezetapparaat werkt. Dus dan ja, is het ook moeilijk om koffie te gaan drinken als er geen koffie is. Maar ja, het laat zien wat voor divers persoon je bent. Je hebt daarnaast ook nog een promotieteam gedaan op open dagen en Solar-team. Maar ja, namens GEWIS hartstikke bedankt voor al je inzet. En succes ook nog in de rest van je leven. Ik heb nog een klein cadeau. Dan, zoals net ook al kort genoemd, Kees. Ja, waar zou ik beginnen? Jij bent ook in de eerstejaarscommissie begonnen en ja, ook de ouderdagcommissie gedaan. Als eerstejaars, alle ouders lekker verwelkomd op de universiteit, laten zien wat je dan doet als student. Maar ook nog als opperhoofd om de nieuwe eerstejaars daarin te helpen. En ja, je bent ook betrokken geweest bij het onderwijs, zoals de studentenraad meedenken wat studenten denken. En C4 heb je ook ingezeten, dus in die zin ja, was Vincent misschien een beetje een voorbeeld voor jou, een beetje dezelfde dingetjes gedaan. En ja, je zit hier, je bent waarschijnlijk wel een beetje gewend hoe dit soort dingen gaan, want jij bent ook voorzitter van GEWIS geweest. Je bent 38e bestuur, ben je voorzitter van GEWIS geweest en daarin mocht je ook hier telkens staan, dus ja, je weet al hoe dat gaat. En voordat je dat deed, ben je aspirant ook geworden van Dispuut. En je was een beetje eigenwijs, want dit deed je niet alleen. Je schreef samen met Ruben, later ook je bestuursgenootje, een brief. Dat jullie allebei lid wilden worden. Dat was niet de bedoeling, eigenlijk moesten jullie dat gewoon los doen. Maar toch waren jullie eigenwijs genoeg om dat te doen. En daarin zijn jullie ook leuk actief geworden. En dan, ja, je bestuur. Voordat je bestuur werd, moest je nog, als je kandidaat, moest je ook nog naar andere verenigingen een beetje kijken hoe het is door heel het land. En ook een leuke anekdote, toen jullie in VIA waren in Amsterdam. Toen speelden jullie een spelletje, iets met liefde voor je voorzitter. En daar was een hele mooie beer. En jij was super enthousiast over die beer. En die wilde je heel graag hebben. Dus op een gegeven moment kwam het moment daar, je pakte die beer, je bent heel hard weg gaan rennen. Zelfs nog uiteindelijk je verstopt in de bosjes, omdat je niet wilde dat de anderen de beer gingen hebben. Maar ja, dit laat ook wel zien dat als jij het doel hebt, dat je er gewoon voor gaat en je gaat rennen en je komt er wel. En dat laat ook zien, in je bestuursjaar heb je een half jaar niet alcohol gedronken, omdat je aan het trainen was voor de hele marathon. Dit heb je ook gedaan. Je hebt de hele marathon gerend met een supergoeie tijd, dus ook complimenten. En ik kan zo nog even doorgaan, bijvoorbeeld Inter 19, de introductiecommissie, of Inter 20 heb je ook nog gedaan. Maar ja, heel erg bedankt voor je inzet in het bestuur, maar ook gewoon alle jaren bij Gewist. Dus ik wil jou ook naar voren vragen. Nog speciaal een mooie oorkonde. Ja, bedankt. I will switch back to English. As you're all now graduates of our department, you're also welcome to join ADA, the recently founded Alumni Association. Here you can catch up with fellow alumni, but also keep in touch with the department and maybe other activities that are taking place. And then there's one thing left for me to say, and that's to congratulate you again with this wonderful achievement. I hope that this may enable you to challenge yourself even further for the rest of your life. Thank you.
We are almost at the end of this meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, Master of Science, with a reference to the words of the previous speakers and on behalf of the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science, I would like to congratulate you and your family and friends on your degree. I wish you every success and good fortune in your future career. And after all these congratulations, I also have to address you with some serious words. The scientific degree of master involves duties as well as rights. As a holder of this degree, you are committed to standards of scientific integrity, trustworthiness, intellectual honesty, openness, independence, and societal responsibility. These standards are described in more detail in the Netherlands Code of Conduct for Research Integrity and in the Eindhoven Code based on it. You also have duties towards society. You must be clear about the boundaries of your own expertise, and you must communicate honestly and independently about the results of your work, including potential risk associated with it. You are committed to the ethical codes for research and design involving human subjects or animals. Ladies and gentlemen, our photographer will take now some pictures of the candidates and therefore ask you to leave the room and wait outside to congratulate the graduates, so you can walk up the stairs. Bites and drinks will be served in the hubble. The public meeting of the examination committee is hereby closed.